Hi, this is Marlene. A warm welcome from Glasgow, Scotland to all around the world. In this series of Marlene and Friends, I'll be sharing with you the most amazing group of people who have all the skills and expertise to make our world one of health and peace for all who live here, humans and non-humans alike. My fabulous friend and fellow vegan Bob Linden will brighten up your Sundays with his fantastic 2-hour Go Vegan radio broadcast. In our interview, Bob stresses how we are at a tipping point. There is absolutely no doubt about that. Everything that's wrong with the world comes from eating meat, dairy, fish and eggs. So aside from the fact that Bob's life's work is for the love of animals, you may know animal agriculture is the biggest cause of climate change. At least 51% of all greenhouse gases. We have all the information and ammunition that we need in the sense that the world's most top climate specialists tell us the only solution to stop the ruination of the planet is a shift to veganism. We require at least 50 to 80% by 2020, or in the US alone, 1,700 cities face submersion in the not too distant future. So please keep sharing and caring. Hi, I'm Marlene Watson-Tara in Service for a Healthy World. My guest today is the fantastic Bob Linden, who has a heart the size of Goliath. Bob is the creator, executive producer and the host of the Go Vegan Radio, which is a fabulous 1-hour talk radio programme, and it's dedicated to topics including veganism, animal rights and environmentalism. Bob is also a hugely successful events organiser and a professional promoter. He's played a huge role in the conception, development and promotion of Vegan Earth Day events in San Diego Fall Fest and World Fest Los Angeles, which he also MD'd. He has served as media coordinator for the farm, animal rights movement and the Great American Meat Out. Bob, welcome, comrade of the soul.
Well, thank you, Marlene. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me. And it's been quite a, I'm vegan now for 32 years, and it's the cause of my life. Who would have thought that? Growing up like everybody else, eating meat, dairy, fish, and eggs, every day. I won a hamburger eating contest when I was 16 years old. So I never thought, well, in the future I'll host a vegan radio show because I wouldn't have known what the word vegan meant, so.
It's incredible. Well, I think, the linking up of all the network of folks around the world that are bringing a lot light to this plight of what's happening in the animal kingdom, which just seems to escalate year after year. So I feel there's never been a more important moment than there is right now. So the tremendous amount of work going on and the effort by people like yourself and, so many others around the world, it's just incredible. But for me,
it's the most important cause. Going vegan is what saves the planet. It's what saves family health. It's the root of social justice.
Absolutely.
And, I'm in it for the animals.
Yeah, me too. I'm here for the animals. Humans are second, apart from Bill Tara.
Even if it would have been detrimental to my health, it was just something, I was cooking a chicken in college. I was living on my own for the first time, and every Friday night, everybody would come over, and I made this chicken dish with an apricot glaze. Everybody loved it, and it was the chicken cutlets. And then one Friday night, it wasn't that they were cutlets and nondescript round food.
Sure.
I saw the body. I saw someone's leg and thigh, and I looked down and I said, "Wow, somebody died for me to be eating," and obviously suffered pain. And I thought, oh well, they told us the animals are here for us to use and to eat. But I thought, well, this chicken didn't volunteer and jump into the frying pan. So it just struck me. I don't think I can eat animals anymore. And I was the first vegetarian I ever knew, the first one with this thought, and everybody was yelling at me. I was engaged to a butcher's daughter, and my future ex-mother-in-law was yelling at me, "You're gonna die if you eat like that." you know.
It's
And then it turns out it
incredible.
was the healthiest choice,
Yeah.
the only moral choice, you know.
And here you are 32 years later, but as the brainchild behind Go Vegan Radio, I mean, when and why did you decide to launch this hugely successful show, which is now in its 16th year? Huge congratulations on that. Amazing.
I'm shocked also. I thought it would last a couple of weeks, and then the owners of the radio stations would hear what I'm saying and throw me off the air because I'm basically insulting all of their other advertisers. And but I guess they still haven't listened yet, so I'm still allowed to be on the radio. Um, well, I had a career in radio. You know, most of my life I was doing music radio as the program director of music radio stations around the country and in management. And then radio became consolidated, fewer owners, less need for a creative music program director. So the animal rights part of my life seemed to take over. And I was in San Diego, and one of my co-conspirators in animal rights said, we should do a vegan event, and that meant handing me a telephone and seeing if I could get speakers and entertainment and all of that. And it really worked well in San Diego to the point that was San Diego Fall Fest in, I guess it was 1999. It went so well, we had thousands of people out there, surprisingly. And we said, well, let's go up to LA and create an event there. So I went up and, camped out on my sister's couch and watched my 2-year-old nephew while I planned World Fest, which was a vegan event in Los Angeles. And that was a huge success also. And in the course of promoting World Fest, going around to various radio stations in the Los Angeles area, I was at KRLA, and there was a producer there named Suzanne LaShawn, and she said to me, well, you have a background in broadcasting, and you're so into the vegan cause and animal rights. Shouldn't you be doing a radio program about that?
Wow.
And I said, well, I had in mind at one point to do something on TV or video, at least so I could say, hold up, cow's milk, look, bad, organic soy milk, good, or almond milk or whatever. And she said, we have airtime open on the weekend. You have to pay for it, so why don't you go see if you can find some advertisers to support it? And so I got on the phone, and actually within a short amount of time, I created enough of an advertising base to support going on the air. And it's been very expensive. I'm like an infomercial. I'm like a vegan infomercial, basically. The way radio looks at it.
Yeah.
They sell time, and they back when I was a program director in radio, we were considered ourselves public trustees, so we would run programming in the public interest. I would be running my show for free in the public interest as public affairs programming if I were a program director in radio today. But now it's all, sell, it's all profit. So it's, you want to do a vegan radio show? We have airtime. You have to pay for it. And so I've had to generate a lot of money over the years, actually. So it's, a trade-off. Like, can I pay rent this month, or do I buy the airtime? If I buy the airtime, I'm doing this for the animals, So I've been on a number of stations, Radio Network, the Air America Radio Network, which is kind of a left-leaning liberal network. And of course, I was the most progressive show because it's a vegan show.
Sure.
But I've also been on conservative right-wing radio stations, oddly enough, who pursued me, who contacted me and said, we want your show on weekends here. And I said, have you heard it? Said, oh.
That's incredible. Yeah.
It's like, no, we like the content. We'd rather run your show than an hour, mortgage broker or, hair treatment or something. You're like real content. You'll attract an audience. Plus, you're going to pay us money. So,
well, and the show is hugely educational. I mean, you have the most up-to-date information. All it's fantastic. The research that you do each week for your show and the guests that you have on, Bob, it's amazing.
Well, I do have to fill 2 hours, actually. I think
Mm-hmm.
you said it was a 1 hour show. It was 1 hour until it started to be syndicated by the Genesis Communications Network,
Right.
and they asked for it to be a 2 hour show. So that's what I do now. It's live Sundays, 5 p.m. Pacific time, California, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. And also, by the way, in the introduction, you mentioned in the past my association with the Farm Animal
Mm-hmm.
Reform Movement, and Meat Out, which are like it's past history. I'm very disappointed in today's animal rights movement. I really feel that it's
Yeah.
moved away from the vegan cause, and groups like Farm, I'm sorry to say, have sold out. These
Really
people
is
have,
what I didn't know that. Really, they've sold out too.
yeah, yeah, well, they basically become partners with the egg industry.
Mm.
So all of these groups, and these are groups who are featured at Farm's so-called Animal Rights Conference, which is what motivated me to now be working on producing the World Vegan Summit and Expo coming up in
Uh-huh.
July, because I feel like the animals have been abandoned. So Farm and the groups that it features at its so-called Animal Rights Conference, people like the Humane Society of the United States, Mercy for Animals, Farm Sanctuary, Compassion Over Killing, and others, used to hold the position against um, the so-called modified or furnished battery cages for hens. They were too cruel, unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
We're against them. One day, they all reversed their position in support of United Egg Producers. Suddenly, all these groups are campaigning for these battery cages, these modified furnace battery cages that were unacceptable to them the day before. They all reversed their positions in partnership with the egg industry. And this has gone on and on and on to the point where you really can't differentiate the animal exploitation industries from the so-called animal rights movement now. It's really, very upsetting. So, in a sense, this is, we're motivated toward vegan promotion. More and more, they're moving away from that. They won't even say the word vegan, and they'll now it's veg or vegetarian, which vegetarian could and should mean vegan, but it doesn't.
It
We know
doesn't.
that terminology gets compromised. At one point, you had to say, I'm a lacto
That's
vegetarian,
right.
meaning dairy, or ovo, lacto ovo. Then we dropped the lacto ovo, suddenly vegetarian generally means having eggs, having dairy, so you can have a cheese omelet and a glass of milk, and say, I'm a vegetarian, but what are you doing? Still the animal suffering and killing,
Mm-hmm.
environmental devastation, heart disease, cancer, stroke, diabetes.
Yeah.
So, it's very strange what happens with terminology and a movement that's really gone bad now. All they're promoting right now is cage-free eggs.
Oh my
In
goodness, how awful!
Yeah, in the U.S., all of these groups are celebrating that McDonald's promises in 10 years to have cage-free eggs, which, so what? You know what I mean? It's like
There's
all the males will be ground alive and
yeah.
suffocated, all the females will be mutilated, they'll be crowded, all the birds will be so crowded they won't say, wow, we could have been in cages, it could have been worse. They're with tens of thousands of others packed in, mutilated, all killed, and that's where a movement has gone wrong, especially when we need to promote veganism now. There's an
Yeah,
urgency
there
to
is.
veganism, even that it's the only way to save the world from climate change.
Absolutely. And look at the
What?
disease in human health, 85% non-communicable disease. And people don't even, the information that you put out, more cholesterol in an egg than there is in a Big Mac. I mean, people don't have this information unless they're listening to real veganism programs, reading real vegan websites and stuff. So it's just the whole thing's a nonsense. But as you say, Bob, if we don't actually get our heads around this, like the whole of humanity, they won't be here because the planet's under incredible, incredible ruination now. I was interviewing an oceanographer from NASA, and he said exactly the same 51%, greenhouse gases. And the one thing, the elephant in the room, excuse the pun, is no one talks about the meat, dairy, fish industry. They put silly things out there for discussion. Sugar tax. What is sugar tax, you know?
Right. And as much as I'm against the XL pipeline and
Yeah.
whatever, it's not built yet. So we're all against something
It's
that
not even
hasn't
there.
brought us to the tipping points.
Yeah.
We're in an emergency right now. The pipeline didn't bring us to the emergency.
That's
It's
right.
the consumption and production of meat, dairy, fish, and eggs.
I know.
So I followed very closely. I mean, you know, and the thing is, we have the information and all the ammunition we need in the sense that the world's top climate specialists, I'm talking about Dr. Robert Goodland and Jeff
Yep.
Anhang at the World Bank, this isn't, I'm not saying it because I love animals, but they're the ones who have said animal agriculture is the number one cause of climate change,
Yeah.
responsible for at least 51% of all
Mhm.
greenhouse gas emissions. So actually, we're actually underestimating it. When we
Sure.
say 51% is a figure, they say at least
At
51%.
Yeah.
As shocking as that can be. And then they tell us, those climate specialists tell us, the only solution is a shift to veganism. We need a 50 to 85% shift
Yeah.
away from consumption of so-called livestock products to vegan by 2020, or
Mhm.
for example, in the U.S., 1,700 U.S. cities face submersion in the not too distant future
That's
because
right.
of these tipping points, and it'll be the same everywhere.
Yeah.
As we see now the results of climate change. But even the environmental groups, again, they're as sold out as the animal rights groups. 350.org. Let's dance and sing and point fingers and say do something. But there is something. We expect governments and politicians
No.
to have these carbon trading things nobody could possibly understand in a million
That's
years,
right. Yeah.
When the solution is we can all go vegan today.
Yeah.
But Bill McKibben at 350.org loves to eat meat. He's a meat eater himself, and I think that's a big problem. And these organizations also are corrupted by contributions from
Mhm.
rancher industries and meat industries
Sure.
to the point where we don't hear the truth.
Yeah.
And
But you would think that these people, okay, so they have colossal amount of money or whatever, but you would think as parents or grandparents they would do it for future generations, because it's almost like they're not concerned about anything for beyond tomorrow or beyond the next day. And for what? Because they want to eat a piece of meat. I mean, it makes you can't get your head around it sometimes, right?
Yeah. Well, and even today, maybe it's because I'm vegan for 32 years and see things through a vegan filter, but I don't understand how parents today, having access to information,
Yes.
can feed their children meat, dairy, fish, and eggs.
I know.
mean, there's no controversy. Dr. Esselstyn says nobody has to have heart disease,
Nobody.
but it comes from our diet.
Yeah.
Cancer comes from this diet. The World Health Organization
That's
just
right.
came out and said, it said processed meat, causes cancer. Red meat, they make these distinctions.
Yeah.
Red meat probably causes cancer. So what parent can feed his or her child a hot dog anymore? It causes cancer. Here, Johnny, stick
Yeah.
this in your mouth.
Well, we see kids with cholesterol levels over 200. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Right. Heart disease at a young age, cholesterol
9
levels.
9 and
children.
10 years of age. Yeah. Incredible.
Yeah.
So, one of the most important events in the world, Bob, that you are the main man, the organizer, the event, the whole thing, the World Vegan Summit. I love the name, the World Vegan Summit. It offers the solutions to the most pressing issues, just as we've been discussing about what the planet's facing right now. So can you share the dates and what speakers are about to be on the stage in July? Is it in Berkeley?
Yeah. It's July 29th, 30th, and 31st on the campus of the University of California in Berkeley. We held the first one last year in Los Angeles, and it went so well that we were motivated again to do this, which is a labor of love, basically. It's
Sure.
just this necessity. When I was making this decision, really, in my youth and my college days or whatever, I thought this was going to be a quiet, personal decision. I'd sit in a corner, I'd eat a salad, I wouldn't explain myself, I mean, and then it turns out that everything that's wrong with the world comes from eating meat, dairy, fish, and eggs.
Yeah.
Every problem on the planet.
I know.
How did that happen? Again, saving the planet from climate change. I mean, can't do more than that. Saving us from extinction, saving the planet. There's that. But there's also deforestation.
Yeah.
There's water usage, resource depletion, habitat destruction, and then, as we said, all the disease, heart disease, cancer, stroke, diabetes, human slavery, poverty.
Unbelievable.
You mentioned it. War, peace issues,
Sure.
violence. So I believe that all of those should be addressed in the context of a summit.
Mm-hmm.
We look at all of the issues. And for example, we have Professor Gary Francione, who's become very popular with his abolitionist approach to animal rights and veganism and the ethics of eating animals. Let's examine that. Let's examine, we're brought up, the first thing we're told is thou shalt not kill, and then we go eat a hamburger. I mean, it just makes no sense. And in our world of war and violence, look at the war on animals that really goes unseen.
Yeah.
Billions of innocent animals, And so Tolstoy said, as long as there are slaughterhouses, there will be battlefields.
Yeah.
And, we fight wars over resources, land, oil, etc. So we have peace activists like Cindy Sheehan, who's very famous for her peace activism against the Iraq War. She's vegan. She'll be at the World Vegan Summit and Expo. As I mentioned, Dr. Francione will be.
Yeah.
Chris Hedges, who's a popular peace journalist, will do a special video presentation. We have wonderful. Well, I mean, it's so hard to single people out.
Yeah,
because,
of course.
We just have wonderful university professors discussing areas of animals and capitalism and just. The subject matter, feminism and veganism.
It's a lot of what we teach in our macrobiotic health coaching course too, Bob. As you know, we our human ecology project, our human ecology diet encompasses all of that as well. And Bill's been teaching, food slavery and environmental issues in the last decades too. So we are going to try. I know you invited us, and we're doing our best to try and see if we can come there, because you have to sample my miso broth.
Oh, I'd love to. I love miso.
So
I was at a wonderful restaurant last night in San Francisco called Shizen. It's a vegan Japanese restaurant. It's fantastic. I think people who come to the World Vegan Summit and Expo in July, this is in the San Francisco Bay Area, there are wonderful vegan restaurants.
Yeah, Bill and I have been there. We were teaching there a few years ago, and we had dinner. The food was amazing. Delicious.
Yeah, so a lot of great vegan restaurants from Vegetarian House in San Jose, 100% vegan, organic, to this Japanese restaurant yesterday. The food, I mean, the place is packed, so.
Yeah.
The website is worldvegansummit.com. Okay. And the whole idea is that we're gathering here to strategize on how we can help everyone go vegan. Mm-hmm. We're covering, as I said, the subject area is, feeding the hungry, feeding the homeless, just covering, the wide range, children's health, vegan children's health, and we'll have an art show. We have great music and great food. And of course, I'm hoping to have your miso there. And
I'll be there. Yeah, Bill and I are doing our best. We really want to try and be there and, do like some lectures and cooking and everything, but I think, like you just said, Bob, we're so limited. Human beings feel so limited by our own constraints and our understanding of human potential. Right? And I believe that. And every day it's like you have to keep sharing inspiring stories. And I do, because when people come to me, as I said, they only come when they're sick, but they change their lives. And I have got testimonials that I could fill, hundreds of people's computers with all around the world. And I share them with people. And that's the way we get people moving forward. So it's like food activism for us. But, when I was on your show, we talked a little bit with Gary and Anna, Professor Francione and Anna, about the whole elitist thing, which is nonsense. I mean, I make 36 burgers for 99 pence from lentils. You know, I make delicious soups that cost pennies, and I sent them a whole load of recipes. So it's not about having specific expensive ingredients. You can eat this way and actually save money when you don't buy meat, fish, dairy, and eggs.
And consider that, I guess, I don't know, some people want to call veganism, elitist or
Yeah.
whatever. But if people are not vegan, then they are actually the victims of the
Mm-hmm.
food they eat. So
Sure.
they're the victims of propaganda. Now,
Mm-hmm.
at our event, the World Vegan Summit and Expo, Dr. Milton Mills will speak there. And I've had an event in the past called Soul Food for Thought, which is vegan outreach to people of color. I mean,
Yeah.
for example, our event is happening in Berkeley. Well, there's 3 times the heart disease in the black population than the white population
Yeah.
of Berkeley alone. I mean, so, and Dr. Milton Mills calls the standard African American diet of today slave food, plantation food,
Yeah.
not resembling the food of the traditional food of Africa.
That's right.
And then we have Dr. Antenna Roba from Ethiopia
Yeah.
speaking, who visited the slave dungeons of West Africa and relates that to animal agriculture also.
Sure.
But he, as an emergency room physician in the U.S., sees not only the effects of meat, dairy, fish, and eggs on the black population,
Mm-hmm.
but he sees the environmental impact when he goes back to Africa, and he
Of course.
sees the rivers drying up, the lakes drying up. I mean, it's all.
It's all relevant. It's all connected, right? And that's
It's
why.
all so connected,
Yeah.
so connected.
Yeah.
That's what's amazing about it.
That's right.
And the solution is going vegan. I mean, it's that simple. It's something that can be done today by everyone. I mean, if we just stop pointing fingers and blaming
Mm-hmm.
everything else for everything that's wrong with the world, and just take it upon ourselves to go vegan. And and again, being vegan for 32 years, maybe there's a vegan filter that something in me says, why don't people wake up to the fact that they're eating decomposing corpses, pathogen-laden, decomposing, fecal-covered corpses? You know what I mean? You're eating body parts. Hello?
Yeah.
And some people do wake up. Some people, I know people who in the past have been eating a hamburger and it just occurred to them, the light went off.
Mm-hmm.
What's in my mouth or who is in my mouth?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so. We would never eat a cow. We drive past cows on the road and we say, "Oh, look how beautiful,"
I know.
We would
I know.
never consider. We don't salivate when we see cows.
No, we don't. I can hear Daisy. Hi, Daisy. I can hear you making some noise there. Someone's passing the window. Well, just as you were saying, Bob, there's so many educational websites, films, documentaries, books. Yourself, your radio show, Professor Gary Francione's webinars. And the website that I always send people to is, howdoigovegan.com. That's on Gary's abolitionist approach, because it's filled with everything you need to know. And there's one thing that was very disturbing to me last week here. I had a client came down from up north, and we were chatting about vegan and veganism, and she's really kind of on the path now, and she's over the moon. Everything's out of her diet. But she said that as a school teacher, she's hearing the kids in their school saying they're on this veg and diet, and not vegan, VEGGN. They're on a diet of eggs. I'm absolutely dumbfounded. They're eating eggs for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. She said it's a big thing in schools right now here.
Oh, and by the way, this horrible Meatless Monday campaign, which for some reason seems to tell people it's okay Tuesday through Sunday to engage in off behavior, that has become a bonanza for the egg industry.
Of course.
The egg industry said it has 30-year record sales right now for Meatless Monday, because people don't say it's Vegan Monday; they go to more meat and dairy. And I've seen in social media now they're talking about plant-based with eggs, a plant-based diet with eggs. That's why I brought the issue of, the term plant-based is of concern to me, because for a few reasons. Plant-based doesn't just say plants. It says based, you know what I mean? And then, so Farm Sanctuary on its website its chef there said, well, plant-based doesn't necessarily mean eliminating all animal products.
That's right. It's
Well,
just
that's the
based around
area.
plants. Yeah.
It's just based, right? So you could have, have a bowl of kale with a hamburger on top of it, right? Because it's just
God.
plant-based. And then the term plant, in terms of being appetizing or attractive to people, oh, you're vegan, what do you eat? Plants. Ooh, does that sound appetizing? So there's a concern with that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's just,
Yeah.
that's
Crazy,
what,
crazy. Well, that's what's happening over here with eggs right now, vegan eggs. Okay, Bob, tell me. I know you're so fun.
and it's the worst. There's nothing healthy about eggs.
No.
They're full of cholesterol, cause cancer.
Yeah.
But again, here you have the compromise. People want to be vegan.
Mm-hmm.
They know it's cool to be vegan. It's healthy to be vegan. Everything. But it's like, what? Give up my meat? Give up my eggs? Somebody give me an excuse to rationalize so I don't have to be the real vegan.
That's
like
right.
Mark Pittman, the author of Vegan Before Six.
Oh my! I can't believe that. It's shocking. It's shocking, but it's the same over here. There's celebrity chefs writing, 3 days a week vegan and vegetarian. It's just all nonsense. Absolutely nonsense. Bob, I want to share with the world your monologues on your radio show. I tell you, if you ever need cheered up, just put on Go Vegan Radio and listen to Bob Linden. You are just fantastic. So I know you have hundreds of funny stories. Just share something quickly with us before we finish. Something fun. Although you are fun.
Well, yeah, I thought I used up all my funny stories already. Let's see. But something that like you said, and the idea. Well, I received this award from the Supreme Master Ching Hai International Association. I was called the Shining World Hero, which was great. Instead of a plaque, by the way, they sent me a nice warm jacket, which I think
nice.
Great. That's a great, And I'm thinking, why did I get this award? Really though, like why? I'm not really a shining world hero, but the idea of promoting veganism, actually, everybody who promotes veganism is a hero, is a shining world hero. This is, the vegan restaurants of today are they are the rescue. They're the human rescue right now, So, in a sense, I found it funny that I got an award that's a shining world hero. But I do share that with everybody who promotes veganism. For me, there's a sense of urgency about it.
Yeah,
and I was a guest on a friend's radio program on KCAA, which is a radio station in Southern California. The owner of the radio station was listening, and it turned out that he was in the Texas cattle ranching business, but in listening to the program, it sparked something, a memory of his childhood, a love he had for a cow who looked back at him when the cow was going up, into the railroad car and looked back, and it was something he remembered all his life, like the betrayal that was, So that sparked an interest in him for me to carry my radio program on his radio station in Southern California.
Fantastic.
Then some days later, I'm talking to him, Fred Lundgren, and he said, I said, well, how are you doing, Fred? He said, well, not too well. You don't know this about me, but you asked for a funny story, and here I am with not too well. So not too well. You don't know this about me, but I weigh 350 pounds. The doctors are telling me I have weeks to live. Nobody will, they won't operate on me. They just won't do anything. So I said, well, Fred, maybe, just out of luck, you and I have met now, and I'm going to suggest that you go vegan because that's what I suggest for everything. I'm kind of like,
yeah,
it's like,
it's the answer.
People think I'm smart, but really I just know one thing. My answer is always, hey, go vegan. You have a problem? Whatever it is, go vegan. So I said, now don't go vegan my way. Let me introduce you to Dr. Esselstyn, who's worked with heart patients and all. So Fred went to his website. Fred went vegan. Fred lost an incredible amount of weight. He's exercising. He's, it's just worked out. And this is years later. He's still alive. And he went back to his cardiologist to look. The cardiologist said, what did you do? And Fred said, well, I went vegan. And the cardiologist said, don't tell any of my other patients, okay?
I know, but it's true. It's absolutely true. It's like, Colin Campbell, let's put it all under the table. Well, I could talk to you for absolute ever. You're just an absolute joy and a gift to the world. And for 32 years, you're a superstar. You look fantastic. And definitely, Bill and I, we will get to Berkeley in July. We'll be there in San Francisco for sure.
Oh, are you saying yes, you will?
Yes,
Is that a definite yes,
yes.
Right now?
We're definitely going to. We're definitely going to come. Yeah.
Okay, so and people who want to register and be with us there can go to worldvegansummit.com and then, of course, goveganradio.com for our radio programs, including your archive program.
Okay, fantastic. Well, it's been an absolute joy to speak to you, Bob, and I look forward to seeing you in July, and I will be feeding you daily with all my fantastic fare.
Oh, I'm looking very much forward to it so much. Thank you, Arlene. We'll see you there in July at the World Vegan Summit.
All right. Lots of love, Bob. Take care.
Love to you.